Thank you, Lance.
Can you guys hear me if I just?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a command
Thank
voice.
you.
You know, if my wife were here, she'd tell you that I've never met a microphone I didn't like. So
It's true.
I'm gonna put it down so that I don't get carried away and talk too long. So give me the hook anytime you need to. I'm delighted to be here. This has been a great meeting. So kudos, congratulations to Lily and to her entire group of officers for putting on a terrific, terrific meeting. Give her a round of applause. Terrific. I really enjoyed the stories in the beginning and then all of your responses to some really tough questions that were asked. I thought that you did a terrific job. So the Republican Liberty Caucus has been around for over 30 years. It was actually begun right here in Florida by a group of college students at the University of Florida who were Republicans, but were already seeing, even back then, 30 some odd years ago, the drift of the Republican Party into establishment and not constitutional values. And so they were faced with a dilemma. They said, so what are we going to do? Are we going to go over to the Libertarian Party, or are we going to start an organization within the Republican Party to try to get it back on track? And they ultimately opted to go that second way. So they established the Republican Liberty Caucus at that time. It's now a national organization. We exist in, I think it's 35 or 40 states now. I'm very proud to be able to tell you that Florida is the largest state in the nation in terms of membership. We bill ourselves as the conscience of the Republican Party, and we say all the time that we are not afraid to hold the party accountable. Okay, we're not afraid to hold elected Republicans accountable. In fact, if you go to our website, RLCFL.org, you'll find the legislative scorecard that we produce at the end of every legislative session, where every Republican member of the Florida House and the Florida Senate are evaluated. They are graded on 20 what we call liberty bills. These are either pro-liberty bills or anti-liberty bills. Every single one of those 20 bills has to have been heard on the floor of both chambers. So there are no opt-outs. Every single one of these members had an opportunity to vote for or against those bills. And I can tell you right now that I am very proud of the fact that ours is probably one of the toughest scorecards out there. Of the 83 Republican members of the Florida House and the 28 Republican members of the Florida Senate, there were literally only 3 A's out of all of them on that scorecard, and they were A minuses. They weren't even solid A's. And there were only 16 or 17 B's or B minuses out of 83 in the House and 28 in the Senate. So that means everybody else that was a Republican got a C or a C minus. There were even some D's and some D minuses there. So we've got a lot of work to do. And so this whole idea that we've got these Republican supermajorities in the Florida legislature and what a great thing that is, it's not a great thing. It's not a great thing at all. Having that many Republicans makes it that much harder to be able to push back against the leadership of the two chambers when they're trying to jam something down the throats of their lawmakers, of their party, if you will, that negatively impacts all of us. So there's a ton of work to be done. I tell people all the time that they can take away your rights in Tallahassee just as easily as they can in Washington, D.C. Sometimes even more easily in Tallahassee than in Washington, D.C. So I ask people all the time this one question everywhere I go: who wants to restore the Republic? And typically this is what happens. Every hand in the room goes up. And then my very next statement is this: then stop paying so much attention to what goes on in Washington, D.C. and start paying attention to what goes on in Tallahassee. The road to restoring the Republic begins right here at the local level, and it runs to your state capital. And we've got to build a firewall in Tallahassee, Florida, against the government overreach that's coming at us from Washington, D.C. It's abominable. I ran for governor back in 2018. A lot of you don't know that because I didn't get a lot. I finished 3rd out of 8 in that primary. But one of the things that I said I was going to do on the first day if I was to win was to pass an executive order telling every single school district, every single school board that they were to no longer cooperate with the Federal Department of Education.
Yes.
That's just one example of one of those alphabet agencies that is absolutely overstepping their authorities. Okay, James Madison said, a lot of people, I'm starting to see, I told you, I'm starting to go along.
Go on, Bernie, go on.
See, a lot of people say, well, there's this general welfare clause in the Constitution that gives the Congress the right to do whatever it feels is in the best interests of the people. Let me tell you something. James Madison, everybody knows James Madison.
Yes,
He's
sir.
the father of the Constitution. He wrote probably 90% of the Constitution himself. James Madison, and I quote, said that if there was anything whatsoever in the written Constitution of the United States of America that gave the Congress the authority to do whatever it wanted to under the guise of the general welfare of the population, if that existed, it would not have been necessary to enumerate the powers of the federal government in the first place.
Exactly.
But they did enumerate them for a reason. So that's what we're all about as an organization. We tell people all the time that we want to try to work within the Republican Party, any opportunity that we get to try to return the party to its Jeffersonian roots of personal liberty, limited government, and free markets. And you'll notice I said free markets, not capitalism. I'm a capitalist, born and raised by a father who was a banker. So I believe in capitalism. I do not believe in crony capitalism. That's right. There's way too much of that going on in Tallahassee, Florida. I'm going to close with this. One of our priorities throughout the years has been campaign finance reform. Okay? We keep bringing it up year after year after year, and it keeps getting shot down year after year after year. Why? Because leadership in Tallahassee likes things the way they are. You're running for the Florida House, there's a $1,000 limit on how much somebody can give you for your campaign. But there is nothing that stops you from setting up your own political committee with an entirely separate bank account from your campaign account. And in your political committee, you can take unlimited contributions. And that's what they do. 10,000, 50,000. I mean, 100,000. And the leadership in the House Speaker, and the Senate President, they raise millions and millions and millions of dollars into these political committees that they have set up. Wilton Simpson, your Commissioner of Agriculture, who just finished 2 years as the Senate President, he has 4 different political committees that we know of, and had amassed a total of something like $16 million just in those 4 political committees that we're aware of. And he's taken them. The same guy that gave Andrew Gillum $200,000 gave Wilton Simpson $250,000. Explain that one to me. And the same attorney's firm, okay, that gave money to gun control organizations also gave money to Wilton Simpson to the tune of about $250,000. So explain that one to me. And folks, this goes on all the time. So you've got to pay attention to what's going on in Tallahassee. We've got 2 events coming up on September the 24th in Melbourne, Florida that I want to plug. Our biennial convention, our state convention, is happening that day during the day, starting about 9 o'clock in the morning, running until about 3:30 in the afternoon. That's taking place during the day. And then that night, we have our 15th annual Constitution Day dinner. This is something we've been doing now. This will be our 15th. It'll be my 14th as the host of that event. We've got Tulsi Gabbard as our keynote speaker. Okay. Her new book comes out in October. Unfortunately, it won't be out in time for our convention. Her new book comes out in October, and the title of that book, if you haven't heard, is For Love of Country, Why I Left the Democrat Party.
Yeah, interesting.
Okay, and she has been campaigning all over the country for Republicans. She's been at CPAC. She's been at the Western Conservative Conference. She's even doing Lincoln Reagan dinners for some states around the country. So she's got a very powerful, constitutionally based message that has to do with the overreach of the federal government, these alphabet agencies, the Department of Justice, the Biden administration specifically. Okay, she is on the attack, and that event starts the doors open at 5:30. The dinner starts at 7. That one's $125 per person. I have just a very few seats left. We're very nearly sold out already. And I got a question. I had a hand up over here.
Did anything about the RLC of the state of Florida supporting the Save Florida from the U.S. Capitol Police?
Yeah, we passed a resolution, as you know. We passed a resolution. Our Florida board passed a resolution calling on the governor to boot them out of the state of Florida. by the end of the year. And so we've passed that resolution and forwarded it on to the governor's office. I have not heard a word back. I guess he's busy campaigning. I wish he was doing his job, but but I guess he feels like campaigning is more important. Got a question over here?
So, I know a lot of counties are doing these different resolutions, but wouldn't it make more sense, because I know Pinellas County, Bernie Jacques is getting behind some of the resolutions passed, so doesn't it make more sense before resolutions brought forward that the people doing them get a state rep or state senator, kind of get the ear of them so there's a little more teeth to it and they can actually take it to session?
That's a great question. We actually are very involved with our state legislators. Bernie is coming to our dinner, by the way, and he's gonna be one of our speakers at our state convention during the day. So yes, and the session starts in January this year, not March, so it starts earlier. And so committee weeks actually begin in October. So yes, we're already reaching out to many of the different legislators around the state. I've got, I think, 5 of them coming to my state convention. Tommy Gregory from right here in Manatee County is coming. Bernie's coming, Spencer Roach is coming, from down in Lee County. Dean Black from up in Jacksonville is also coming. They'll be at the convention and be at the dinner that night, along with several others, local guys from Brevard County. Yes, sir.
Hey, Bob, what is RLC, what's RLC's big push gonna be in the next legislative session? What 3 major key areas you guys gonna go after?
Well, there's always the red flag issue.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's really important. Tyler Soroy has sponsored legislation in the past. I believe he's gonna sponsor it again this year. That while it would not, he's actually done a repeal bill for red flag, repealing it in its entirety. And then he's also done a bill that would at least provide that the state should have to furnish a public defender for you if you can't afford an attorney. Because right now, because red flag is considered a civil offense and not a criminal offense, if they take your firearm, you get that knock at night, and you go to the door, and there's a police officer standing there with a judge's order saying that he's there to confiscate your firearm. Well, guess what? They come in and they take your firearms from you. You've then got to go to court to prove that they shouldn't have taken your firearm and that you ought to be able to get them back. But if you can't afford an attorney, one will not be appointed for you. Because it's a civil, not a criminal offense. So
we
that
need
would
you to fight
at
for
least
that.
correct
We
that.
need you to fight for that. We need you also to fight for medical freedom. Get 20,
Oh,
triple two,
yeah,
and
that's-
70-50,
Okay,
election
okay.
That's
integrity.
all gonna be there. Thank you very much. Great job.